How's it going, everyone? Jeff Johnson here from the Gazette, wearing my light blue t-shirt today with my co-host Jeff Linder, the man in black, and K.J. Pilcher, the man with hat.
Yes, there we go.
We are here talking high school football with the Prep Huddle, Prep Football Podcast. Gentlemen, we are officially halfway through the regular season, believe it or not. The weather's still in the 70s, going to be in the 80s by the end of the week again. So what the heck state did we move to?
Yeah.
We must
Welcome to October.
Exactly. But let's just kick it off with where each of you were on Friday night. We'll kind of hit what happened Friday night overall, especially around our area, maybe some games in the state. But Jeff Linder, tell us where you were at last Friday and tell us about your game, I guess.
Yeah, I was at Lisbon and saw the Lions beat Pekin 28-15. Very, very impressed with Lisbon in the first half. They got out 21-0 and looked like they might get the continuous clock going, but they failed to score right before the half, and Pekin got one right after half to close get a little bit closer. I think it got as close as 21-7 and then 28-15. Lisbon was the better team. Pekin definitely has some players. Adam Kidd at quarterback and Adam Kidd at running back. And boy, Lisbon's just too fast. I don't see too many Class A teams that can match them speed-wise. Tiernan Boots, both sides of the ball, fast runner. They go a lot of stuff up the gut with him. If it was me, I'd be sweeping the sides a lot more, but they know a lot more than I do. But just so much speed. It's not just him. They've got a lot of quick kids.
I know we haven't seen a lot, and you personally haven't seen a lot of Class A football, but I mean, is this a team just with its speed that you think could make some noise in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if they're a state championship team, but I think they're a team that might be able to get to the Dome. They're going to have to match up with probably somebody like a Mac Valley or Starmont or North Lynn, maybe as early as the second round, and that's going to be tough. Maybe they'd run into Pekin again at some point, and they're certainly a decent Class A team. They're going to have to clean some stuff up, though. They had 115 yards in penalties, and that's too much. But, for the most part, they were able to overcome that, and they're absolutely a quality Class A team.
Pilcher, you were over at Saints Field to watch Xavier demolish Clinton. It's good to get off that 2-game losing streak, which Xavier just doesn't have very often. What do you see other than pure Saints domination?
Well, I mean, I think that was pretty much it. It was kind of the perfect game for what Xavier needed. They were able to get they had a big 28-point second quarter outburst that put them up 35-0. They were able to get reserves in, have a dominant performance to feel good going into a very tough stretch of their schedule. The thing that really kind of stands out is, we've talked about their quarterback issues with injury. Cash Parks has been out for a couple weeks. Honkamp has kind of taken over the reins, filling in. He came out. He was on crutches on the sideline for part of the game, had a brace and for homecoming the next day. So he was out. And Sam Schimberg, a sophomore, I believe, came in and threw 3 touchdown passes in that second quarter, and really stepped up for the Saints. Really came through against Clinton there. But other than that, it was pretty dominant performance. Their defense, I mean, it was smothering even with the backups. Really one-sided, but certainly a game Xavier needed going forward, especially with a big game again at North Scott this Friday. So really perfect timing for to get back in the win column and do it in a really dominant fashion, and to have Sam Schimber kind of step in and play well in the time he was in there.
I think you kind of had bizarro games because you had that one, which was a blowout.
And
The
Thursday,
night before, you had a great football game between Iowa City High and Cedar Rapids Kennedy with the Little Hawks for the second week in a row, scoring a late touchdown, going for two, and converting to pick up a win, this time 43-42. I watched a lot of that game, I guess, on TV, and what a football game, huh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Great back and forth pretty much the entire game. A little deja vu for Iowa City High, where I think against Iowa City West, was there no time remaining when they went for two and
something like that?
And got the win. Here, there were 20 seconds. Iowa City High first started the game without their leading rusher. Eglin was either sick or hurt. So they call on sophomore Dawson Call. Somebody that Mitch Moore said, they kind of knew he was a special back, but they didn't necessarily need to rush him. So they haven't really kind of thrown him in to carry the load for the team, but he did, and he responded 37 carries for 257 yards and 3 touchdowns. Of course, that third touchdown came with 20 seconds to go to pull City High within one at 42-41, and then for the second straight week, they dial up a 2-point conversion, go for it, and convert. And big play where Bobby Bacon was rolling out and kind of just lofted the pass up for Parker Sutherland in the back of the end zone, and he came down with it in between about 2 or 3 defenders, and that ended up being the ball game. City High, I tell you, they showed a lot of resilience. In the third quarter, Call had 2 straight possessions where he fumbled the ball and gave Kennedy prime field position, and they converted that into points. I think they went up 14, in the third quarter, and that was a time where you could kind of fold up the tent and look ahead to next week, but they didn't. Bounce back and got that late score in the final minute. And, they also had a drive right before half that was key, kind of aided by unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after touchdown late in the second. They get good field position, and they march down, and Bacon hit Parker Sutherland again, this time like a little post pattern for a 20-yard touchdown with about 20 seconds to go before half, which that was huge. You don't get the ending if you don't have that as well. And it really spoiled a huge game by Jacob Doyle. And I tell you what, as impressive as Call was, and Bacon and Iowa City High's offense, Jacob Doyle absolutely had a phenomenal game. 19 carries for 153 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 88 yards receiving, huge 65-yard TD on a screen pass where he cut across field and he split 2 defenders. And I was telling you guys this earlier in the week. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody Doyle size 6'1", I think a little over 200 pounds, just blow right past a safety and a cornerback like that. He is a phenomenal kid. I know Lindy mentioned he was part of the record 4x1 state relay that Kennedy had. So Jacob Doyle, fantastic athlete. He really showed it against City High. But, I think that's kind of a dagger in the Kennedy season. They're kind of on life support, right? And that was a boost that City High really need to kind of keep going now that they have three wins in a row, go to 3-2.
I saw that Jacob Doyle on X said that he's going to experience a game day at Air Force Academy. So, excuse me. So yeah, so he's getting some looks, obviously from colleges. So, and like you said, KJ, I mean, it's I'm not sure any of us would have thought that Kennedy would be sitting here 1-4 halfway through the season. And
but one of the things that keeps coming up, and I think Lindy kind of mentioned it in previous weeks, and Coach White said afterwards, it's just mistakes and mental lapses and just little basic fundamental things that they mess up on or just kind of blank out. It burns them. And if they were ever to get things kind of pulled together, this is going to would be a team that would be really competitive. We saw even in their losses, they played Lindmar tight, they played Dowling tight. It's a good team, but those mistakes and errors have just cost them because they've come at bad times.
There's not a lot of talent there.
Exactly. It's just kind of seems like it's one of those years, right? I mean, you make bad mistakes at crucial times. You can't get off the field on third down.
Yep, that was a big
that
was a big part of that game.
A hard time stopping the run. And it's just kind of been consistent, unfortunately, for Kennedy in his first 5 games, and they've got no break because that's the schedule. They played tough games. There's no walkovers, at all for the Cougars. So out of the playoffs, Jeff, I mean, you're up on this RPI. Right?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say they're 1-4, but would it really shock your socks off if they went down to Bettendorf and won Friday?
No,
probably not. I don't think that's an impossible task. I think it's a necessary task if they're going to find their way into the playoffs.
We had at Kingston Stadium, I had a game similar to Kingston Stadium had 2 great games last week. Now that I think about it, we talked about Kennedy's game with City High, and Friday night I had Washington and Jefferson. Jefferson trying to go 5-0 and clinch his first winning season since I think 13, if I remember correctly. But Washington, back and forth game, fourth quarter, 38 total points scored by the teams. It's just literally back and forth. And Washington had the last possession and drove down the field, and Logan Barton, their fine sophomore kicker, made a 25-yarder with like 3 seconds left for a 30-27 win. So LJ Nino Jr., Lindy, you're going to get the opportunity, I think, Friday night, right, to just watch him play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's something. Junior wide receiver. I had him with 206 total yards and receptions. I mean, he's just he's got size, he's got athleticism, jumping ability, and it was just one big play after another from that kid. He was great for Jefferson. Vernon Manda, the quarterback, threw for I think 350, 351, somewhere in there. But Washington found a way, and it has now won more games than it did last season. It still has a little less than half a season to go. So, we have talked about what a great job Ed Miles has done at Jefferson, and I think there's some more really good things to come. I think their freshmen are really good. So the future looks pretty good at Jeff, and I think Coach Eric Addy at Wash has done a really nice job too in his first year. And we've talked about that, guys, kind of setting a culture of toughness. And that was a game where you had to win last Friday night via the toughness. So tremendous game. We'll look at maybe some of the other 5A games involving area teams. Ankeny defeated Iowa City West 38-22. Linn-Mar 28-27, guys, over Cedar Falls. And Cedar Falls is almost kind of like Kennedy in a way. I think all their losses have been close, right? If I remember correctly. Does that sound right?
They're sitting 2-3 now, right?
Yeah.
But 17-point loss to Centennial, 7-point loss to Liberty, 1-point loss to Linn-Mar, and a 3-point win over Johnson.
Yeah. So, and a great win for Linn-Mar, right?
Yeah, great win. They should get their next two and probably should be sitting 6-1. They got Muscatine, then Davenport West, and then City and PV. So they should be 6-1 heading into those last two, and have a lot to play for as far as getting a home date for the playoffs.
Other games: Iowa City Liberty edged Cedar Rapids Prairie 26-21. Liberty goes to 4-1. State-wise, I think this was the first week we didn't really have any huge upsets. Central Iowa kind of played as is, other than, I guess, Johnston beat Waukee 21-7. And that knocked Waukee out of our top 10. Anyway, so looking at 4A, we talked. Pilcher talked about the Xavier game. Marion with a win, 31-7 over Waterloo East. I believe that's 2 in a row for the Wolves. Is that correct? Maybe.
I believe so.
Waverly Shell Rock with a big win over Western Dubuque, 25-6. Impressive big win. Cora keeps rolling, 41-7 over Mason City. In 3A, or 4A, excuse me, district play began last week, and same with 3A as well. Kind of looking at some of the scores. Benton Community doubled up Fairfield 29-14. Mount Vernon easily over Mount Pleasant 59-0. Dubuque Waller keeps rolling undefeated, 43-0 over Center Point Urbana. West Delaware kind of laying in the weeds after a couple of losses in non-district play, 63-3 over Macokota. Independence keeps rolling, 39-3 over DeWitt Central. Solon with an impressive win over Grinnell, which we had in the top 10 at the time, 26-7. Williamsburg, 54-14 over South Tama. Kind of looking at other scores. 2A, we had West Liberty upset Anamosa, knocked the Blue Raiders out of the top 10, our top 10, 28-14. Big win for first-year coach Jason Dumont down there. North Fayette Valley continues to roll, 35-0 over Osage. Old got in his first game in 3 weeks. Lost to New Hampton 41-18. If you're not aware, Oline has had low numbers, especially in its upper classes. It's juniors and seniors, and injuries have prevented the Huskies from playing games the previous 2 weeks, but they got back after it last week, which was good to see. Class 1A, we had Iowa City Regina 21-7 over Cascade. Wilton keeps rolling, 45-7 over Durant. That Regina-Wilton game could really be something here in a couple of weeks. Elsewhere, West Branch loses to Dyersville Beckman 41-13, and a really big win for Alburnett, guys, 47-6 over Hudson, which we had in the top 10 in 1A, and which was undefeated going into that game. So what do you make of that?
Alburnett must be pretty good. The bad thing is they're in with South Hardin and Grundy, but they're probably going to finish third in that district and make the playoffs, aren't they?
I would think so. And I kind of looked at they are very, at least skill position wise, I think they're very sophomore oriented.
Okay.
Hunter Caves, who we all know was a great athlete there. He's got a younger brother, KJ. I know he played baseball. Help me out with his first name. Lakin, does that sound right? Caves, perhaps. His sister was a really good softball player, right, Lindy?
I think it was Hunter Caves.
Okay, but he's a sophomore, and he plays a big part for him. I think the quarterback, Kastner, is the sophomore as well. So could be team to look forward to watching here in the next couple of years. So Class A real quick. Starmont beat North Cedar 46-0, and we got them, I think, back in the top 10 in Class A this week. Northland 32-0 over East Buchanan. Maquoketa Valley 54-0 over Clayton Ridge. South Winnetka, big win, 42-7 over Agweiser. And 8-player, I don't think there were any big upsets or anything like that. Edco's a nice story, I think. What, 5-0, right, guys?
Yeah.
And another Rochford. Imagine that. Team. I think this will be the third brother, if I remember correctly, but and son of the head coach.
Yeah, so I was silly enough to have them 5th in the my preseason projections in that district, and looks like they're the team to beat now. They probably would clinch the district if they win this week. Do they win this week, or do they have a bye?
I'd have to look at the schedule. Bryce Rochford, by the way, is the young man, the latest Rochford brother to play. He had like 270 some yards rushing in the win over Lone Tree last week. So
Edco plays Springville this week.
They got Springville. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's kind of a look back. Anything else that we didn't touch on from last week that kind of tripped your trigger, guys?
Well, just a few things. One, Lindy, you talked about Edco kind of surprising you, or you having them down. I did not expect Decorah to be where they're at right now. They obviously have really put together a strong team. I mean, they lost Dakota Johnson and some other guys from last year, and this year they're just as strong as ever through the start. Also, 4A, the back half of 4A is kind of turning into what 5A was in the first 4 weeks. You have Western Dubuque beating Xavier, and then going down and beating North Scott, and then Waverly Shell Rock beats Western Dubuque, who lost to Xavier and North Scott, and now you've got Xavier playing North Scott. So it's just kind of interesting how that back half of the top 10 is kind of transpired here in recent weeks, and it'll be interesting to see what this week brings up. Clear Creek Amana, they suffered 2 really bad losses to Solon and Williamsburg after opening against Marion, and now they've got 2 wins in a row to get back to 3-2, beating Benton Community and Burlington. So we'll see if that's a trend up for Clear Creek Amana. Northland also undefeated, which is big. And what about the games that Cole Griffith is putting together there for the Lynx right now? And they're a team that really can cruise the rest of the regular season and maybe do some big things in the postseason as well. So those are just a couple things from last week that really stands out.
You talk about Northland and that district. I think we're going to have all 4 of the district playoff qualifiers determined from that district this week.
Really?
Wow. So they would be what? Maquoketa Valley, Bellevue, Starmont, and Northland. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mac Valley hosts Bellevue, and the other two are heavily favored. So
Okay.
I think they'll all be 4-1 or better in that district, and none of the other 4 teams are close.
Wow. Let's run down our weekly our Gazette poll for this week real quick. Class 5A kind of remained the same for the most part. West Des Moines Valley, West Des Moines Dowling, 1-2. Bettendorf and Pleasant Valley, 3-4. Ankeny Centennial, 5. Southeast Polk, 6. And then the bottom 4 in order: Linmar, Iowa City Liberty, Johnston, and Sioux City East climb in there at 9 and 10. Class 4A, Council Bluffs, Lewis Central, a unanimous 1. Followed by Pella, North Polk, Gilbert, and Decorah. Then, as KJ mentioned, that's a pretty good bottom 5. ADM, North Scott, Xavier, Newton, and Huxley Ballard's in there after a big win last week. So, Class 3A, we got Solon at number 1, Algona 2, Williamsburg 3, Wahlert 4, a tie at 5 between Mount Vernon and Sergeant Bluff Luton. Independence, Clear Lake, Humboldt, Nevada, and Sioux City Heelan are tied at 10. Class 2A, West Lions number 1, PCM a strong 2. Spirit Lake in there at 3, Van Meter 4, Carroll Kemper 5, North Fayette Valley at 6, Northeast Goose Lake at 7, Cherokee, Central Line, and Roland Story are your bottom 3 there. Class 1A, Grande Center at number 1, Wilton 2, Dagner Hartford, Emmitsburg, and South Hardin round out the top 5. Iowa City Regina at 6, OABCIG 7, Sigourney Keota in there this week at 8, a tie with Trainer, and then MFL Marmac. Don't look now, but the Bulldogs are good again. They're 4-1 and number 10 in Class 1A. Class A, ACGC, not to be confused with ACDC, is number 1, West Hancock 2, St. Ansgar, Lisbon, and Earlham round out the top 5. Lamar's Galen, Tri-Center, Woodbury Central are tied at 7. Northland then at 9, and Madrid, which lost last week again, is number 10. 8 player remained, I believe, pretty much the same. Repson, St. Mary's, Algona, Garrigan, Audubon, Don Bosco, and Lennox are your top 5. Your bottom 5, 16 Chet, Iowa Valley, Cumberland, Nina, Messina, Gladbrook, Rhinebeck, Bedford, and Woodbine. So there's our Gazette poll for this week. Lindy, you did some ciphering, as they would say on the Andy Griffith show. And kind of figured out the RPI right now where it stands in Class 5A. Do you want to?
Yeah. So there's only 2 unbeatens left. Bettendorf is at number 1, and Ottumwa is at number 4. We've actually had a couple teams leapfrog at Ottumwa here. Liberty's all the way up to number 2. Their strength of schedule is very good, and Waterloo West is 3, despite their loss last week. The other 4-1 teams. 5 through 11, Valley, PV, Dowling, Centennial, Linmar, Council Bluffs, Lincoln, and Davenport North. Iowa City High's at 12, despite 2 losses. They jumped ahead of Jefferson, who's at 13 at 4-1. And then 14, 15, 16, the last 3 playoff teams, if the playoffs were today, are Southeast Polk, Johnston, and Sioux City East, with Waukee, Hempstead, Ankeny, and Waukee Northwest, the quote-unquote first 4 out right now.
What this kind of shows, and it'll work itself out, we have, and it's no offense to these schools, but they're playing games that they're going to be competitive in, and that's what it should be all about, right? But Waterloo West does not play a strong schedule. Ottumwa's schedule is probably even worse.
Yeah.
And they are 3 and 4. You look at Davenport North, doesn't have a strong schedule. So do these teams have a legit opportunity to make the playoffs, Jeff, and maybe at the expense of teams that are probably better? And KJ, I'll ask you, you can weigh in on this obviously as well, but and it's a good thing.
Well, they're playing teams at their own. Go ahead, KJ.
Is it a good thing?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I think you want the best teams in there, regardless of, I have a sour disposition when it comes to something like this with Ottumwa, because been through it in the past. But I mean, it's a similar path. I mean, they're gonna they're going to take a spot in front of somebody that, you know, might not be a worse team than them, and it's because they have the benefit of playing an easier schedule. That doesn't seem right. And I know the reason why the schedule, it was 4 teams like a Jefferson that could build on some things that, you know, you play teams close to your level and you can kind of build things up, but, you know, and not just get walloped week in and week out playing teams that are head and shoulders above where you're at. But when it comes to the playoffs, you want your best 16 teams there, whether or not they play the top tier teams and end up being 3-6, because honestly, a 3-6 team that plays some of those Central Iowa schools or Cedar Rapids, Iowa City schools, they're going to be better than a 7-2 team that doesn't play as strong a schedule. I know I sound
down the road here.
Sound really bitter, but yeah.
Looking down the road, Waterloo West still does have a game against Valley and one against Liberty in week 7 and 8. And then they close with Ottumwa in week 9. So, you know, if they finish 6-3, that'll probably be enough to get them in. Ottumwa's 9 opponents right now are a combined 14-31. Let's see, where's their schedule?
See, and compare that with Southeast Polk, whose opponents are 26-19.
Yeah,
and they're on the edge now. I understand.
Or even Kennedy.
Yeah. Yep. You know, and I understand there's still weeks to go, and that'll fluctuate, and things will kind of balance out. But you know,
yeah. I'm looking at Ottumwa's schedule here, guys. It's Keokuk, Roosevelt, Lincoln, Oskaloosa. So that's a couple of 4A schools they played there.
Yeah. Keokuk's 3A.
Okay, Keokuk's 3A. Then Marshalltown, which is Windlass, Ames, then Waukee Northwest, Des Moines East, and Waterloo West. That's the schedule for Ottumwa. So, and you know, I see the side of it where okay, there are schools, and we've talked about it, that don't have any chance of winning. Let's just say it. They're not going to win a state championship in football. And they're probably not going to make the playoffs most years. So if you can schedule to where you win 7, 8, maybe even 9 games, and that gets you in the playoffs, is that it? That's a good thing? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, it's good for you. It's good for you if it's you. I don't know. There's kind of an art to it as far as who you try to schedule. You want to schedule teams that are going to be pretty good, but you know you can still beat. You know, if you can schedule a lot of teams that are going to be 5-4 or 6-3 that you think you can beat, I think that's kind of the way to go. And I think it changes. I think your philosophy has to change from year to year just on what kind of team you've got coming.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Or the 2 years, what you think you really have coming in 2 years, because it's what a 2-year cycle, and that everything changes next season, right? We'll have new schedules and everything. So
and maybe the smartest thing to do is to schedule down a class or two, because you don't get penalized by playing 3A and 4A teams. Maybe schedule some teams that you think you can beat that, you know, are a class or two down that might be 5-4 or 6-3 in that class.
I wonder, you know, I'm thinking like a Kennedy, which is intentionally scheduled hard games because it knew it would have good teams. And this year, unfortunately, I think that schedule's kind of bit them in the behind. But what does Kennedy do? You know, if it doesn't make the playoffs at a 5-4, you know, and that's a big assumption that it runs the table here. But
if they go 5-4, they're going to make it.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah,
they would be higher up than like an Ottumwa if Ottumwa finishes like 8-1 or something.
Probably not Ottumwa, but probably some teams that would be 6-3. Or they would have an advantage over anybody that would be 5-4. They would absolutely get in at 5-4, I think.
But Prairie's another one. Plays very hard schedule.
Yeah.
What do you do in this 2-year cycle if your school's like that? I don't know. I guess it's good debate.
Yeah.
And we're not answering anything, but it is interesting to me. And we're not banging on anybody. We're not banging on Ottumwa or Water the West. You gotta win the games that are on your schedule, and those schools have done that. So
yeah,
that's great. That is great. So should we hit this week's schedule, or then I'll turn it over to our boy Pilcher for some fun and games here. I guess why don't you tell everybody where you're going to be Friday night? I guess, guys.
I'm going to be down at Iowa City West. I get to see Jack Wallace and that crew for the first time this year. I get to see Jefferson for the first time this year, and that's probably going to be a pretty competitive ball game. I'm looking forward to it.
Probably some points scored in that game.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So, Pilcher, where are you going to be?
I'm going to be at Regina for the West Branch Regina
Tire game.
Two teams under first-year head coaches there. Regina out to a really good start, 5-0. They've got a new quarterback in Kyle Tracy. Knowing our 4 Downs feature at the Gazette.com, one of the questions was which Iowa City quarterback would you go with, because quarterback in Iowa City is so good right now. When you've got Jack Wallace at West, Bobby Bacon at City High, Reese Reddig at Liberty, and here's Kyle Tracy putting up a really impressive season, stepping in for Gentry Dumont, who was their leader under center last few years. So they're off to a good start. West Branch 2-3 right now under a new head coach. They're coming off kind of a rough loss to Dyersville Beckman, but they played a tough schedule. Williamsburg is in there, Dyke New Hartford as well. So, with rivalries, especially with these two programs, coaches are gonna pull at the old heartstrings and try to get the emotions revving up. So you never know what you get on Friday night with a rivalry like this.
We got 3 games in Iowa City Friday night. Just realize that. City High's at home against Davenport Central. Then, as KJ mentioned, Regina West Branch, and West hosts Cedar Rapids Jefferson. The exception, the road team this week is Liberty, and it comes up to Kingston Stadium to play Cedar Rapids Washington Friday night, and that's where I will be really looking forward to checking out Liberty's high-flying or high-scoring team for the first time this season. So a couple of – go ahead.
I might have a chance, depending on how things go. Maybe I'll be able to cover Regina and then get over to City High for a late 2-point conversion at the end of the game to finish off the night. I don't know. We'll see. They might not need it this week, but
yeah. Some of the other games of interest and note here: MFL Marmac plays at, or hosts actually, Dyke New Hartford in a big game in Class 1A that'll go a long ways towards probably deciding a district champion there. Belle Plaine and Montezuma is a big game in 8-player coming up this week. Prairie's on the road at Ankeny. Looking at scrolling up here, some of the other ones.
Did you mention Indy at Wahlert?
There we go. Big one. Independence goes over to the Rock Bowl to play Dubuque Wahlert, and that'll be a huge game in that district. And let's see.
Swollen and Benton could be a sneaky good game too.
Yes. Benton has proved itself, I think, to be a really competitive ball club. Cedar Falls, Pleasant Valley guys. I mean, Cedar Falls looking at almost a must win, right? At 2-3.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy to say. Lindmar plays at Muscatine. We talked a little bit about Bettendorf hosting Cedar Rapids Kennedy. Decorah Waverly Shell Rock's a huge game and a rivalry game that'll be up in Decorah this week. And North Scott Xavier, another game over by the river at Eldridge. That's a huge game in that district. And Western Dubuque plays Marion or hosts Marion this week. So just some of the games, some of the big games coming up this week and the games that us three will be at. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Pilcher, who's got some stuff for us.
Yeah. Before I jump into that, I'm just going to mention the Newton and Pella game. That's kind of a big game that one I maybe didn't necessarily think was a big game when you're looking at the schedules to start the season. But Newton 4-1, Pella 5-0, and both ranked in the 4A. So that's one to watch out or keep an eye on, just because one of those teams could be moving over and playing area teams in the postseason.
Yeah.
So
your wife told you to mention that, right? As a proud Newton alum.
No,
I can see it. She's got your arm twisted behind your back. Thinking about mentioning Newton, dang it.
Yeah. Not quite, but mainly because I think Pella will beat them handily, but we'll see. All right, who's got more? You guys ready for this?
Let's go.
All right, let's start off with an easy one here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into this one. Who has more? Which is highest, I guess, for this one? QB rating. Reese Reddick of Iowa City Liberty, Vernon Benda of Cedar Rapids Jefferson, or EJ Miller of Independence. Who has the highest QB rating?
Boy, they've all been really good. I know Benda's completion percentage has been really high. So I'll go there. I'll go Benda.
Okay.
I'm going to say EJ Miller. I don't know why.
EJ Miller? The answer, Linder, you are correct. It's Vernon Benda. His QB rating is 207.2, while Reddick is at 203.5, and EJ Miller is at 187.8.
Ooh. That's still outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
All three.
Those all rank high in across the state, especially within their own classes. So, okay, who's got more? JJ, you kind of mentioned Logan Barton in your you got to watch him last week. But who has more? Logan Barton field goals made, interceptions by Benton Community's Eli Patterson, defensive touchdowns by Springville as a team, or the number of Scream movies. So the number of movies in the Scream franchise.
Well, I have no idea how many Scream movies there are. So I'm going to go, let's see, Barton Kick 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say Logan Barton field goals.
Okay. Linder?
I don't know how many Scream movies there are either. I haven't seen any of them. Let's go Springville defensive touchdowns.
Okay. This is a trick question. There are two answers that are correct. There have been 6 Scream movies. And Logan Barton has made 6 field goals this season, which actually would put him like third or tied for third among field goals made by teams.
Oh, wow.
So I think there are 2 teams that have made 7 field goals, but Barton's made 6, and there are 6 screen movies. Eli Patterson has 5 interceptions so far for Benton Community, and Springville scored 4 defensive touchdowns. All right. Who has more passing yards? Grant Hocker of Williamsburg, Jack Wallace of Iowa City West, Dalton Mutterman of Lansing Key, or the number of pages in War and Peace?
Lindy, you're up first.
Oh, I'll go safe and go Wallace, which I'm sure makes that not correct.
It's got to be War and Peace, right? Doesn't it have like 1,000 pages or something?
I don't know.
All right, that's my answer. I don't know.
Okay, unfortunately, you both are wrong.
Ah,
there are 1,296 pages in War and Peace. Grant Hocker is thrown for 1,301 yards. Jack Wallace is thrown for 1,307 yards. And Dalton Mutterman of Lansing Key is thrown for 1,317 yards.
wow, that's tight.
So very tight.
War and Peace is bringing up the rear.
Yes. Yep. All right, here we go. Which is more, or which is the most? Iowa City Liberty first downs as a team. Iowa Valley Nolan Kriegel's rush attempts. Fumble recovery yards by West Delaware's Ryan Hilby. Or the number of red balloons sung by Nina in 1984.
That's 99, Lindy. I'm just tipping you off there. So,
one of my favorite things about going out to Prairie during basketball season is when their pep band plays 99 Luft Balloons.
There you
Is
go.
it really?
Oh, that's great.
You remember that video? She didn't shave her armpits.
I did not.
Maybe I'm the only one that noticed that.
No,
It was a German.
I didn't have MTV when I was growing up. We didn't have cable out in Cedar County then.
Man. I think I'm up first, right? So I'm going to say Liberty first downs.
Okay.
Because they had I think if the game Lindy covered, they had 27, if I remember what he said.
They had a bunch. I'm going to go Kriegel rushing attempts.
Okay. Start with the lowest. Ryan Hilby has 98 fumble return yards for West Delaware, which ranks among the state leaders. And you mentioned Nina sung about 99 red Luft balloons in 1984. Nolan Kriegel has rushed for 101. He's had 101 attempts rushing. And Liberty has 105 first downs, which leads the state. 105
Moving the chains.
Moving the chains. Yeah.
That's 21 first downs per game. That's pretty amazing.
That's fun.
Now this is our Williamsburg edition to Who's Got More. This is exclusively Williamsburg here. Okay. Race Heitman receiving touchdowns. The number of Williamsburg punts this season. The number of Williamsburg's forced turnovers this season. Or the rushing average for Niles Sin. So yards per carry average for Niles Sin. Heitman's receiving touchdowns, total Williamsburg punts, total Williamsburg turnovers forced, or yards per carry for Niles Sin.
Lindy?
Give me Niles Sin.
Okay.
All right, hold on. I got to call Coach Ritchie real quick here. Coach, what do you got? All right, thanks. Turnovers.
Turnovers. Okay. Well, I'll give you the answer right out of the gate. It's Race Heitman's receiving touchdowns. He leads the state with 12 TD catches. Obviously, a great asset for Grant Hocker this season. Williamsburg has forced 10 turnovers.
Close.
So far. They've only punted the ball 8 times. And Niall Sin is their leading rusher, and he's averaging 8 yards per carry. So pretty impressive numbers all around there for Williamsburg. And, of course, they've bounced back from the loss to Xavier, and they're going to have a big one here
next week
when Solon comes to town. So, but those are the Williamsburg numbers so far. Did I make it challenging and fun enough for you?
Absolutely. And okay. I'm gonna do them next week just so Pilcher can do some answers.
That would be fun.
He is exposing our ignorance, Lindy, on a regular basis.
I don't claim to be smart in this game at all.
No, exactly.
It's just for fun.
Yeah.
I will be happy to be on the other end of.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do it next week. So,
especially just so you guys know, it's not like they get these in advance. The match game one last week, I gave them just a couple hours of advance notice, but they're doing this off the cuff and great sports about it. So they don't get this stuff in advance. So they don't. It's no research. It's just them.
Just us.
You guys do a good job. You guys do.
All right. Speaking of a good job, don't forget to check out the Gazette.com Friday night. We'll have a running scoreboard as usual at K.J. Pilcher for everything you need to know about his game on Friday night, West Branch and Regina. Yep. At JT Linder, he'll I'm sure his fingers will be flying. I'm guessing there'll be a few points in that Jefferson Iowa City West game. And at JEJE66 for Washington and Liberty. Pilcher, you will have a feature coming up in tomorrow's paper. Is that anything you want to divulge?
It's Friday's paper.
Friday's paper. Okay.
Friday's paper. So look for it tomorrow afternoon, and then Friday's Gazette.
Very good. All right. Any closing thoughts, guys?
No.
I just wish all weather would get here. No offense. I'm ready for the decrease in temps and hoodie and jeans weather.
And a big bowl of chili.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's always good too.
Exactly. So, all right. For KJ and JL, this is JJ saying thanks for watching us. Again this week, another edition of the Prep Huddle Prep Football Podcast. Thanks to Nathan, our producer. And we will talk at you next week. Enjoy the football this weekend, folks.